Alright, after all the teasers we got a few days ago, we got a really pleasant surprise. We got a full CGI cinematic revealing Bel'Veth, the next champion. I would be lying if I said that she wasn't interesting enough to make a whole separate video talking about her. But today we will talk about her cinematic. This will not be my reaction, I have already seen it. If you wanna see my reaction, it will be up on the second channel. Also, I will assume you have already seen the video. So now, without further ado, let's have a look at all the details you most likely missed. The cinematic begins with Kai'Sa landing at the bottom of the Lavender Sea, which is essentially the realm of Bel'Veth. Interestingly enough, even though it may seem like this is happening right after the last cinematic, where Kai'Sa jumped into a hole being followed by Rek'Sai, because here we can't see Rek'Sai anywhere, it is unlikely that this is happening right after the last cinematic. But what happened between those two places, we actually don't know. Also, Bel'Veth is likely somewhere in the south of Shurima, while the last cinematic happened more to the north. Right at the beginning there is an audio cue. You can actually hear the Bel'Veth theme. And then it reveals the place around. The ruins you can see here are actually Bel'Veth. That's because Bel'Veth was named after the city Bel'Veth. Because when Bel'Veth consumed Bel'Veth, she turned the entire place into her own realm.
The city of Bel'Veth shall fall first.
And once again, even though it was never stated where it actually is, it should be somewhere closer to Icathia. In the story where Malzahar actually summoned Bel'Veth onto Runeterra, it was Malzahar who summoned her, and Malzahar was around Icathia, and also in that story there was a deserter who was running south. As you look around, notice how the entire place is actually mimicking the lighting underwater. That is most likely because Bel'Veth consumed a lot of the ocean. And as we all know, the Voidborn adapt based on what they consume. That's why her realm mimics water. And interestingly enough, that is also why you can see all the corals around. In fact, if you go back to the story with Malzahar, you can read about the Velvet Sea having dark, luminous corals. That is exactly what we can see here. Then there is this weird thing. We are actually not really sure what this is. It could be an egg because, you know, the champion is gonna be swarming people with her fish. But it could also be a miniature version of the Sun Disk. Then again, if it is closer to Icathia, I don't think that's the case. Because Icathia was actually a rival to the Shuriman Empire. Regardless, this thing is actually moving and it is following Kai'Sa. So I don't think it is a miniature sun disk. And then there is the boat with the butterflies. Obviously, this boat is from one of the other teasers which we have seen a few days ago. It even has the same butterfly. What does this mean? We still don't know. I previously believed that it would be possible for that little girl to be Kai'Sa, but after learning about Bel'Veth consuming an entire city, no, that was not Kai'Sa. This little boat with the butterflies is just one of the things Bel'Veth consumed. And this is supposed to show you the remnants of the city. And then we get to the creepy hands in the walls. There are two things that might be happening here. Either the hands are actually Malzahar's cultists, because once again in the story you can read that as the cultists were jumping into a massive void hole, they were torn limb from limb, but more importantly they were devoured by the walls of that place. So these might be the people Malzahar corrupted. But also, remember, once again, Bel'Veth consumed an entire city. So these hands were highly likely the citizens of Bel'Veth. And then they tear apart the butterflies, and once again, I actually don't really know what the butterflies are about. Let's just assume the butterflies were native to the city too. And then the entire wall bursts open and the fishies are unleashed. Once again, Bel'Veth most likely spent a lot of time underwater, so after consuming so much life in the water, it makes sense why her Voidborn creations would look like fish. Also, this is a good time to mention, I really like how Kai'Sa's wings are actually properly attached to her body now. They are not flying around like they do in-game. And then it reveals Bel'Veth. Once again, I will probably talk about her design in a separate video, there is a lot to break apart there. But overall, it's a pretty cool deception. But here's the thing, her face doesn't actually make sense. At first I thought it did. It would make sense for her to have a pretty face for multiple reasons. First of all, she devoured thousands of people in Bel'Veth. Therefore, she had a lot of material to adapt and look like a human. But also, she could look pretty so that she could make people worship her. See, that would make sense. But I read her bio and actually, her face is not the focus at all. In fact, she doesn't really have a reason to have a head. She is not using it as a bait. She is mind controlling people. She doesn't need to look pretty. She can give people the illusion that she looks pretty in their own head. But also, her bio states that she doesn't lie. She's only revealing the truth because that's all that matters. See, and that's why I want to make a separate video talking about her. It's because the focus is on her human appearance, while it has nothing to do with her character. Therefore, why is it there? To be honest, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it feels off. There is a lot more reasons why it feels a bit off, but that's not the topic of this video. As she speaks, notice how she is moving her lips, but it doesn't match her words.
As I devoured this city, I will devour your world.
This is because she consumed a lot of people, she knows how to mimic people, but she doesn't have enough material to be perfect at it. That's why it feels a bit uncanny. It's because it is not perfect. And then we have the action scene where Kai'Sa goes mad and she starts attacking her. She actually gets smacked to the ground with Bel'Veth's backhand. And then, as she's being grabbed by the formal citizens of Bel'Veth, for a split of a second you can actually hear a theme similar to Akshan's theme. This is generic Shuriman music to show you that this used to be a Shuriman city. Then we have the hands ripping off Kai'Sa's mask so that Kai'Sa can actually witness what Bel'Veth really looks like. And as it zooms in, yes, you can see the reflection in her eyes, but you can also see the scars on her cheeks. These purple scars are the leftover of the mask. Then I just really quickly wanna say, I love the monstrous face so much. I also love how you can see it hiding in her body. And then it actually reveals her true form. And that's where the cinematic ends. Once again, I have to say, this is a really cool cinematic and the character is really good too. It's just that the human appearance does not make sense. She simply does not need it. Therefore, why is it there in the first place? That is really my only nitpick. The face really feels to be forced just for the skins. Everything else is great. And lore-wise, she actually feels good too. Now, of course, you may know that Kai'Sa got a new splash art. This is most likely what will happen right after this cinematic. Kai'Sa will get corrupted by Bel'Veth. And since Kassadin's new splash art seems to be in the exact same place, I wouldn't be surprised if Kai'Sa and Kassadin were forced to fight each other. I also wouldn't be mad if Kai'Sa actually got the skin. So yeah, overall, it's not too bad. While the cinematic was awesome, it is interesting to see that it was 2 minutes long. Last time the Ruination cinematics were longer and there were multiple cinematics. So I wonder if this is going to be a multi-part series. Maybe, and just maybe, Kassadin appears as well. But that's just my copium. What I really wanna say in my closing thoughts is that, yes, the head is fine, but it is unnecessary. What is straight up ludicrous is her thighs. She doesn't even have legs. Whatever is at the bottom is actually one of her fins. Why is it conveniently folded to look like thighs?